Good morning. I'm Tim Neubauer, and welcome to Safety Unlocked, the morning podcast, your morning brew of safety knowledge.
I'm Craig Edwards.
And I'm Dave Bittner. Today is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023.
On today's episode, we're going to be discussing ethics. But first, Craig, tell us a little bit about today, this week, this month. What do we got going
on? So we'll start macro and we'll drill down. So this month is Lung Cancer Awareness Month.
Very impactful. Not only has it affected a lot of people in workplace and outside of work, both my father and my father-in-law passed away from lung cancer. So very impactful.
Yes, and there's a lot of things that you can do to impact your chances of lung cancer. Number one, no smoking, and something we'll be talking about later on in the coming podcast: respiratory protection. If you need to wear a respirator, wear one. And so that's Lung Cancer Awareness Month, all month long. Being as today is November 1st, you got 30 days to this. So we have a number of national days to choose from, but Tim made a command decision, and we're going to go with National Calzone Day. So
that was I did not make a command decision. You say, what day we want to go with? I said, I'm going to choose a food day over Day of the Dead or calzones. I mean, which one are you going to pick, guys?
Calzones. I'm with you on the calzones.
So the command decision was made. It's National Calzone Day. No matter what you
Prime
put in
Meridian, people would have to Google that, because as soon as you said it, I like Dave's doing the military officer hand chop, which brings me to Prime Meridian. You divide the world right down one line. So calzone's more fun.
So yeah, you can make it with I mean, it's kind of like a stew and a wrap. You just put everything in there, then you fold it over, crimp it, throw it in the oven for 30 minutes, and you've got a tasty treat.
And if you don't put any meat in there, we can also overlap on World Vegan Day.
Mm-hmm. You can't have a calzone and be a vegan. It's literally impossible, because cheese is pretty much the here we go back pasta? To the pizza. Here we go back.
Yeah, it turns into like a broccoli hot pocket at that point, I think, or something.
Which is nasty. So let's just skip on. Let's skip
we'll
on.
Leave it there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we do have some recalls to discuss that may impact some of our listeners. The Costco Jump, Spin, and Play Activity Center has been recalled due to fall injury hazards. You can go to their website at CostcoKids.com. That's COSCO kids.com. There were approximately 115,000 units were sold, and they were primarily marketed through Walmart. And I'm going to have to go downstairs and look at my pressure cooker, because an Insignia pressure cooker was recalled due to burn hazards. I've never burned myself on the thing, so maybe that's just me. But you can go
it's me too. I've never touched ours, but I actually just took a picture of our script, and I'm texting it to my wife right now, asking her to go check our pressure cooker. So
if you find you have one of those, you can go to recallrtr.com/PC to find out how you can return that unit. Approximately 930,000 were sold exclusively through Best Buy. Excuse me.
Yeah, I do want to say, not trying to lighten this very relevant topic, but the chance of me getting burned by the pressure cooker is pretty slim, because other than moving it from left to right on the counter, I have no idea how it actually works or how to actually do that That was just one of those things. My wife wanted to try a recipe, and we absolutely positively had to have a brand new pressure cooker to eat whatever we tried 3 years ago.
3 years ago? That's rather recent. I think that was the last time my wife cooked.
we have a waffle thing that actually you pour the thing in there and you clamp it down and you flip it all over. It's got a little timer, stuff like that. I saw it the other day underneath the counter, and I was like, my gosh, I don't think we've made waffles in this thing in 5 years, but it's so cool. Let's have waffles.
Oh, by the way, I'm just kidding. My wife made me a lovely chicken dinner yesterday, but she does not like to cook. So
yeah, understood. But she's not up listening to it this early, so it is on replay. She can listen to it later on today. You're in trouble, dude.
Yeah, if she remembers we did this today. So.
Yeah. So. Well, now that I've texted my wife to, hey, check out this recall that Craig was talking about, she's definitely going to listen to this, and then she's going to tell your wife, and you're just in trouble, dude.
True.
All right, let's get on to our main topic here today. And whenever this pops up, I always say, if somebody had talked to me beforehand saying, hey, let's talk about this, it's always disconcerting, and it's the topic of ethics. Ethics as a safety professional and their responsibility. Ethics in a group dynamic. Ethics at a industry or company's responsibilities, not only for an individual, but the company as a whole, and how a company perceives that. And when I look at ethics, I often go back to Walter White in Breaking Bad. And to me, the crux of that show is not about a drug dealer. It is about a guy who makes an ethical slip. That's the best way to discuss. If I was to set up a dilemma that you were starving to death, you're walking down the street, you're begging for food or money, nothing's happening, and a person walks out of a store, is rude and indifferent to you, and I'll use the air quotes, a fat cat, and a $20 bill falls out of their pocket while it's overflowing with money. The ethical thing to do is say, sir, ma'am, you have dropped this money, and give it back to them. But if I was to paint a bleak enough picture, you would make the ethical slip to say, I'll keep the $20. And that you can set that scenario up. And with Walter White in Breaking Bad, he makes that ethical slip, but they painted such a picture that you would have compassion and say, I'm okay. 3 seasons later, he puts a bullet in somebody's head and you say, oh, that Walter. And then I realized that he's a monster, and you've made every ethical slip with him. So the fallacy of the slippery slope comes into play. So that's how I look at ethics is that when you make one compromise, you're going to make a million. And I know that's a phallical argument, but that's how I look at ethics. Craig, you want to lead off from your perspective on this?
So, ethics, I think it starts when you're young, and the type of morals that you're taught through whether it's through family values or through a religious organization, the school that you attend, they all play a role in shaping how you view the world and how you interact with other people. And I was always considered a stick in the mud, shall we say, because I tend to see the world in black and white when it comes to good and bad, or what I perceive to be good and bad. Again, because everything is filtered through our perception, right? Mm-hmm. And then your perception becomes your reality. So for me, if I see a rule, a law, something like that, I'm like, okay, the law says I can do this, but I cannot do that. And that's where my line, and I'm doing, you folks on the podcast can't see, I'm drawing a line in the air. But that's where I stop. And Dave's known me for a while, and I'm pretty much a purist when it comes to thou shalt. And I will use wherever the law allows what in the safety world OSHA calls interpretations. If I have an interpretation that I can use to my advantage, I will. But I don't even believe that that's skirting close to being unethical or compromising my own set of ethics or morals. I'm just using every advantage that has been given to me to help my company, help my client, or help myself do what needs to be done and protect my people. So that's where my viewpoint is that, it's like, hey, they say I can do this, I'll do it up to that line, but as Captain Picard said, this far, no further.
So we all end up with ethical dilemmas, right? So in the world of professional responsibility in ethics, oftentimes it's not you and you alone, right? Sometimes we have to call each other into question and then come to a consensus about what is the most ethical way to move forward in a business, right? Because sometimes you end up in the ethical dilemmas, right? And I think sometimes it's easier to, I don't want to say easier, but it's a more solid way to make a decision is that if you get together and form a quorum and make decisions.
So let me throw a generic scenario out there. We have a client, and fictitious. They have a significant systematic shortcoming. So they don't have some procedure in place. Okay. It's required. It's something you should do, but it would cause a shutdown of all operations, which would lead to loss of client, loss of revenue, potential company ending stuff. So the dilemma comes of, do we put emergency procedures in place to keep them working as safely as possible while we're coming up with a total fix? A purist would say, if you are not compliant, we will not work. And a realist would say, let's get temporary safety plans and programs in place while we're working on the bigger picture. Talk to me about that ethical dilemma of having to meet economic and real world reality versus pure and absolute compliance. Because much to the same, or in opposition of Craig, when I have to deal with lawyers and the law and wrongful deaths and lawsuits, it is a world of grays. But there are also some states where if you're 1% guilty, you're 100% guilty. So that shares blame on it. Talk to me about that real generic dilemma that it's going to take a long time to fix this, but I still have to function or go out of business.
Craig already set the plant down in his mind. It's shut down. He's done.
Well, as my wife has often said, I'm an optimist with a reality chaser. So there are times where, if you are in that situation, and I have been in that situation where I railed against a specific facility. Now, it wasn't company ending, but it would have definitely been revenue impacting. And I was overruled. I was told that facility would stay in operation. But my conscience was clear in that I made my position extremely clear, what I thought about that operation and what needed to be done. So, at the end of the day, everything is a human endeavor, and we do the best we can. And Tim, I do understand the shades of gray, because I too have dealt with lawyers who can use their knowledge of the law to say, well, it doesn't say that, it says this, at least in, and I can prove that it says this in a court of law, right? So at the end of the day, you do the best you can to move the company along toward. If they're making progress, you move them forward. If they're not making progress and the organization's leadership is like, we're not going to do that, we're going to continue to do what we're doing, then I, as a safety professional, have two choices. I continue to work at that company, or I don't. And that is a question on the Board of Safety, Certified Safety Professionals ASP exam. And you'd be surprised at what the answer is, at least in the book. It's like, you need to leave. That is the answer.
I'm going to be very generic about this. I worked as early in my career, I worked as a first tier safety professional, very early in my career. And I had an employee call me and say that a Class A vehicle had the brakes weren't working on it. They caged the trailer brakes on a semi, and it's allowed under the DOT to get the vehicle off the road. So if it's literally sitting in the middle of the highway, you can disable the trailer brakes, cage them, and get the vehicle off the road. But that's it. And as soon as they had caged the brakes to get it off the road, the manager ordered the driver to return the truck to the office several miles away. No brakes on a semi trailer. When he got to the office, they loaded him up with an 80,000-pound piece of equipment and told him to drive across state lines and deliver a piece of equipment. When he refused, they said, do it or be fired. The guy pulled off of the lot, went around the corner, and called me. I called the corporate office, and the VP said, who told you? And they were more concerned about who told me that the manager made a decision to put a piece of equipment on the road that was extremely dangerous. And I ended up leaving there 2 weeks later. And I can tell you that I know that VP, I know that manager, and they still see me regularly. And we're talking 2 decades, folks. They still ask for who that person is.
Yeah, so Craig's well aware of some of the procedures that we had together in our old life, and there were a couple moments there. One, when we got the call, there was a disgruntled employee called in about a certain procedure. OSHA came in, it wasn't that procedure, it was another procedure, and I was honest. When they came at that time, I was running plant operations, and I was honest about what had transpired and what our procedure was, and it was well known across the whole company that everyone was doing it. And I got a call down from the corporate office from one of the heads, and they actually said that to me. Who told you to do that? I actually called them out. I said, don't act like you didn't know this was going on. Everybody in the company's doing it. If you've been to one of these plants, no one ever told us not to do it. It wasn't written in the procedure, so it doesn't, in my mind, it wasn't even a thing until, we were told it was a thing, and we ceased immediately. And then I'm gonna make it quick, but I stood my ground, and I was actually backed up by many, many, higher ups in the company who turned around to that person and said, you shouldn't have done that. Don't ever do that. Dave was in the right. Everybody is doing it. And then another time and Craig will probably remember this, and I got to leave it generic to protect the innocent and not so innocent. we had where there was a procedure we had to follow after this whole thing. We came to an agreement with OSHA. This is the way things are done. This is the way we'll do things. And we were following it to the letter of the law. And if you violated it, it was a terminable offense immediately. And then somebody in the company decided when somebody else did it, it wasn't a terminable offense. So, and Craig was with me on that one, and we had to stand our ground together. We lost, but we made sure that we had a protest lodged officially against the outcome of that. So, it's not always a question of, do you need to quit your job? If I had to quit my job at that point, I would have. And more than once I was on the verge because of certain decisions that were made. But we talked about consistency in another podcast, and it really opened up a can of worms amongst the employee population that was not pretty after that. We'll just say that. So there's a lot of important factors to consider.
So
yeah, sorry, Tim, once that picture was painted in the workers' eyes that certain individuals got treated differently for the same infraction, it was very hard. And I can tell you from watching what Dave went through, it was very difficult for him and anyone else that tried to manage that group after that point. Trust was gone.
okay. My comment is when we are dealing with these moral and ethical dilemmas, the struggle is often, I need my job. And my usual comeback on this is very clear in that, as a certified safety professional or a degreed or accredited through whatever organization across the board, and Craig, you'd mentioned this earlier, is the Board of Certified Safety Professionals. They have a code of ethics you have to sign, saying it's not okay to walk away from this. So let's talk a little bit about, not so much in the specifics of some of these events, but, how do you deal with I need my job, but I can't walk away from this. How do we deal with that on a personal level? What are your mechanisms that you go through, Craig or Dave?
Most companies have some type of hotline. Most corporations, I should say. I won't say most companies. Most corporations have hotlines that you can call into anonymously, and some you can even email or text and let them know things that are occurring that you find are against the company's core values. And I will say this, that there was a company I worked for in the past that had no core values. Was shocking to me. And this was a corporation, a multinational corporation. Anyway, you lodge your complaint or you let them know what's going on, and hopefully someone will get back to you or someone will take action. I can tell you it's about probably 65-35 that nothing gets done. And I hate to say that, but you may be just one voice in a storm, depending on the company. But at the end of the day, if a lot of people internalize, particularly here in the U.S., we see ourselves in the jobs that we do, and that becomes part of our personality. It becomes part of our character, if you will. And at least for us old farts here on the on the podcast. I mean,
to be clear, I'm the baby on the on this side of the house. I'm the youngest one. These guys are a lot older than me.
Yeah, we're I'm I got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel or something like that. But at the end of the day, if your idea of yourself is wrapped up in your job, you may, as you alluded to at the very beginning, Tim, have that ethical slip and let it slide.
It is a difficult decision. Dave, any comments from your end?
Yeah, I mean, I go through the process, and Craig alluded to, I lean on my beliefs, right? So I have to look at my belief system and say, as a Christian, what would Jesus do, for lack of a better term? And look at it that way, and that's the base. And then move forward. I believe in always, whether anonymously or publicly, you have to make a stand, and you have to say, this is my stand. And sometimes the best thing to do is to do it in an email or in print. You don't have to let everybody know and copy everybody. I mean, or, you may be immediately terminated before you work it through. But let somebody know and get it on record that you are against whatever that is, if the company's pushing back, and move forward from there. I mean, and then, you can always find another job, right? There's always things that you can do. If you know what's going on, take a couple weeks or whatever and try to prepare yourself. But, you may have to make that hard decision and walk away.
It is extremely difficult and personal. And one of the sayings that rolls through my head on a when those things occur is an old piece of paper, and I literally saw this like handwritten on a wall years and years ago. Asking me to overlook an unsafe act is like asking me to not value your life. I can't live like that. It was a note, and somebody wrote on a wall, and I was like, wow, that has always rang true for me. That if I overlook it, you can't fix everything. The reality is, folks, we cannot fix everything. It's not going to work. So we have to have those shades, but we can't just ignore it. We have to do something. Now, again, we can't eliminate risk. All we can do, and I'll throw a term out there, folks, and you can read it, called ALARP, as low as reasonably practical. Some people use the word possible. That is not the actual definition, as low as reasonably practical, but that doesn't mean we can morally overlook, ethically overlook safety issues. Very important topic here. I always feel like we're preaching when we do this, but it's a great conversation to have, and you can reach out to our team here at Exceed Safety if you'd like to reach out to us via our links provided in the podcast here, and we'd love to talk to you about that. We deal with this on a regular basis with our clients and the thousands of people who fall under our safety purview. Closing thoughts, Craig.
Well, it was a heady topic. And, I guess, follow your instincts whenever you come into an issue or an area where you need to make these hard decisions.
Dave, any
Yeah, I would just say real quickly, have a confidant, have a mentor. Do not internalize these difficult things, because that can weigh heavily on your mental health as well, and you don't need that, especially if you're an ethical and moral person and you're faced with that dilemma. It's okay to reach out to your spouse, your friend, another coworker that you trust, and talk about these things, and you may find some enlightenment in their words, at least some comfort, to help you get through that. So, as you said, this is personal and difficult.
Absolutely. So, recapping what we've talked about today, professional responsibility. It is your responsibility as a safety professional, as a manager, to reduce hazards, reduce dangerous situations and don't allow unsafe acts to occur. It's a little more difficult when it becomes a group dynamic, when you have peer pressure. We've all fell to that. And finally, the company itself and public perception of a company being safe or unsafe, or one that you want to work for when it comes to these ethical decisions is real, and it can kill a company. Hopefully it kills a company before it kills a person. That wraps up this episode of Safety Unlocked, the morning show. Don't forget to subscribe to the morning show on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on, and follow us on social media. We have a boatload of social media channels. Just look for Exceed Safety or Exceed Safety LLC. If you have a safety question, send it our way, and we might feature it in our next episode. I'm Tim Neubauer with Craig Edwards and Dave Bittner.
Dave Bittner, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, and don't forget that safety is everyone's business.
I'm Craig Edwards. Make it a safe day.
You have been listening to Safety Unlocked, the morning show, a podcast for safety people by safety people. Brought to you by Exceed Safety, a full-spectrum consulting firm. Visit our website at exceedsafety.com or call us at 919-728-SAFE.
Exceed Safety LLC.